Welcome to Weasel Digital, and today we're going to be looking at the equipment and some potential builds for the TIE Defender. This is one of the two new ships that was added, and unlike the B-Wing that has a very specific role, the TIE Defender is a little bit different. We'll just go ahead, we'll get right into things here. TIE Defender, primary weapon systems, there are 4 choices. There are no auto aim choices in this. You have your standard laser cannon, which is not bad. You have your burst cannon, which is higher damage, less ammo though, so you're going to run out of ammo faster, and it is a burst fire weapon. Then you have your plasburst laser cannon and your ion cannon. Now, the ion cannon is not bad in a team setup. If you are playing with people that you know and can cooperate with, it's a good setup. It's not the ship I would typically use this on. If I was in a team setup, I would want that ion cannon on like an interceptor or maybe on a support ship. This ship should really be built for damage. Plasburst laser cannon, it's a charged weapon, it's close range, it has some conditional disadvantages, which are kind of a pain in the butt. The big thing here, though, is that limited range, the charging of the weapon. If you are a really good shot, if you can really land those shots, it's a beautiful weapon. I've seen some people do really good damage with the plasburst cannon on the interceptor class ships. This ship's going to be a little bit less maneuverable, so it's going to be a little bit harder to hit those shots, but it's still a possibility. However, I've seen a lot of people with plasburst weapons do absolutely nothing out there. So if you're good at hitting that one, charged shot you have, great. If you're not, then stay the heck away from it, because you're going to waste more shots and just not do any damage. Now, that would seem to lead to wanting to use the burst cannon. And because this ship has 6 blasters, it's actually kind of 3 bursts. So if you were to fire while you're moving in an arc, you'll notice 3 direct shots. And those are all pairs of that. Now, if you keep it all honed in, of course, it all goes to the same spot. But so you get a little bit of a trajectory if you're moving. My big problem with this is it's hard to keep those bursts on target, especially in a lower maneuverable ship like this one. If you're tracking a fast target and you don't have it honed in exactly where you need it, those bursts are going to go behind the target or just miss the target. So I actually kind of recommend the laser cannon, the standard laser cannon on this. With 6 blasters, you're going to keep kind of a consistent rate of fire out there, so it's easy to trace them, get into the right range, and start hitting them. If you are really good aim with that burst cannon, then go with it. It's a better weapon system. It does more damage. It's going to work out better for you. If not, the standard laser cannon on this is actually pretty impressive. It's higher damage than the standard laser cannon on the TIE. I assume it's probably higher damage than the interceptor, but it's a pretty good weapon. It's pretty solid. It's pretty dependable. It is my choice in this ship. I'm going to skip the auxiliary weapons for a second. We're going to go to countermeasures. We have 4 choices here. We have our Seeker warheads, which is a personal favorite of mine, chaff particles, the sensor inverter, and the sensor jammer. Sensor jammer breaks all locked missiles and makes it unable to lock on you for 4 seconds. However, you only get to use this once. That's too big of a handicap. The sensor inverter, you have to let that missile get very close to you. It has to be within 300 meters, which is very dangerous territory. If you're distracted while it's in that range, it's going to hit you, it's going to do damage, you're going to miss your chance. It also has a very long cooldown of 18 seconds and only 2 ammo. The interesting part, though, is it corrupts the missile and sends the missile back at the person that shot it at you. Now, every time I've ever had this happen to me, I've been able to react to it. It's never worked against me. It's been annoying, but it's never been something that's been dangerous. So it's also not my favorite pick. Chaff particles, I think, is absolutely worthless. It deploys a small area of effect that just sits there. It's static. It doesn't track anything. It doesn't protect you from multiple sides. Only missiles that are coming directly from behind you. So if someone's shooting a missile from your side, top, bottom, in front of you, it's not going to do any good. You're going to leave that chaff particle behind you, and it's not going to do any good. It lasts for 3 seconds, got a 9-second cooldown, 3 ammo capacity. Those stats aren't bad, but its effect is just not good enough. So that leaves us with our Seeker warheads, which is kind of my personal favorite in the countermeasure department. 750 meter range is nice long range. Don't use this before those missiles start closing in on you, though. If you use it too early, when they're way at 800, 900, 1,000 meters away, they're going to be worthless to you. It can shoot down up to 2 missiles, which is nice. Has a cooldown of 12 seconds. Has ammo capacity of 4. Don't forget that when it comes to mines, as long as that mine is within 750 meters of you, even if it's not activated, these Seeker warheads will take out those mines. So it's a great anti-mine device also. This is the best option there is, hands down. Now for hull, there's actually a couple good options. Usually in every ship, I kind of find what I think is absolutely the best. But this has some good options. In here we have the deflector hull. This increases shields and lowers your max health. Now, since this is a ship that has a lot of shields and not much health, it seems like a good idea on the surface. However, the gain in shields is less than the loss in health. So overall, it's kind of a bad trade. Your Lamasteel hull, it decreases the auxiliary damage you take, so missiles, mines, that kind of stuff, but increases the primary damage you take by 20%. Problem is, I find it a lot easier to avoid missiles and secondary and auxiliary weapons than I do primary weapons. So this is actually a really bad choice. That leads us up to the 2 actually decent choices. Now, this ship is kind of interesting. We're gonna backtrack here. We're gonna go out and look at our stats for a second. This ship has very low hull, the lowest hull value in the game at 400, but has one of the highest, in fact tied for the highest, shield value at 1200. Now that's unusual because Imperial ships tend to have a really high hull and no shields. This is kind of the polar opposite of that. The other stats here, speed 130, max acceleration 256, and maneuverability at 76. Now, your max speed of 130 is kind of on the slower end of things. You're tied with your Reaper and the U-Wing. So you're not a super fast ship. That means in speed, your X-Wings, your A-Wings, your Interceptors, your TIE Fighters are all going to be moving faster than you. Even the TIE Bomber isn't that much slower than you. Acceleration is where this thing really kind of tops out, and you're tied with the Interceptor for the fastest acceleration. Maneuverability, however, is low again. It's below the Interceptor. It's below the A-Wing. It's basically tied with the X-Wing and the TIE Bomber. So it's not a super maneuverable ship, but it's not bad. So we have to kind of understand those stats before we start looking at the rest of this stuff now. So the Agile hull increases our acceleration, which is already really high, and it increases our maneuverability, which honestly needs a little bit of help. If this is going to be dogfighting, you need that maneuverability. Your max health goes down. Now, this ship doesn't have a lot of health to begin with, so sacrificing 20% of that little bit of health is okay if you increase your ability to survive. And hopefully that maneuverability and that acceleration will do that. Now, when you have a really high acceleration ship, that means you can slow down and speed up. So you can go from full speed to half speed, make a tight corner, get back up to full speed really quick. It's really nice for dodging ships that maybe have a lock on you. So the agile hull, especially in dogfights, is pretty useful. Your other option is your dampener hull, which is a personal favorite of mine. I use that on every ship that I can. This is the one ship where I don't. The dampener hull, though, is great. It increases the hostile lock time from enemy auxiliary weapons and lowers your health by 10%. Again, sacrificing health in this thing is not a big deal. You only have 400 health to begin with, so losing 10% of that's only 40. That's basically nothing. To double their incoming hostile lock time is very nice. So this is one where if you want more defense, this is great. This will keep those missiles off you. Since I almost always fly with dampener hulls, I do notice if I'm flying with the agile hull, I do get more locks. So it's something you got to be aware of. It's a trade-off. I love the dampener hull. I use it on everything I can. This ship, though, I'm trying to find ways to make it more agile so it's a better dogfighter. So in dogfights, I really like the agile hull. In fleet battles, I would probably switch to the dampener hull. However, if you use dampener hull in dogfights, I couldn't shame you for that at all. And really, compared to the regular ferroceramic hull, either one of these is a better option for you. You definitely should take one of these. At least the dampener hull, if nothing else. It's a good all-around hull. Shields. Again, we have a couple okay options in here. The Scrambler shield increases hostile lock time by 200%, which sounds nice, but it slows your shield regen delay by 200%. That means it's a lot longer before you start regenning shields. Shields are the only thing you've got going for you here, so you really cannot sacrifice shield regeneration. The Fortified Deflector increases your max shields, which is kind of nice, but it lowers your shield generation. So they're going to regenerate much slower. Again, shields are your only lifeline here. You have no hull. So, gimping yourself on shield regeneration to get max shields is iffy. If you're really careful about making sure that you recharge those shields by moving your energy over to that area, you can probably make this work out for you, because that's going to increase your shield regeneration a little bit. Nimble Deflector increases that shield generation but lowers max shields. So I don't like that. Max shields is too dangerous. You really need those shields on this ship because you don't have any hull. So Fortified Deflectors is okay. The Ray Shield, though, is the one I really like. And this goes together really well with like the dampener hull and certainly your countermeasures to make sure you're keeping that auxiliary damage off you. What the Ray Shield does is it reduces primary damage, so blaster damage, by 25%. So if someone's hitting you with blasters, you're reducing that damage by 25%. You're taking less damage. That's a good thing. It increases auxiliary damage by 50%. That means missiles are going to do twice, well, not twice as much damage, but 50% more damage. That's going to hurt. I'm going to be honest with you. But if you have good countermeasures and you pay attention to that, you're going to block most of those auxiliary attacks anyways. And if you have the dampener hull, it's going to be a lot harder to get locks on you. So coupled with the good countermeasures and dampener hull, the Ray Shields are amazing because that's just going to reduce your overall damage. Now, even though I'm not using the dampener hull on this ship, I still take these Ray Shields. As far as I'm concerned, it's a straight upgrade. You're going to take more primary damage in a match than you will auxiliary damage. So this just helps you out. Engines is interesting. First, we'll go over some of the ones I don't care for. Your ship already has amazing acceleration. Increasing it even more doesn't lead to a lot of benefits. Sure, you can get to full speed or down to a dead stop real quick. And I suppose there could be some advantages for that. However, I don't really find it's worth it. especially when you're sacrificing maneuverability, which, for dogfighting purposes, as we've talked about, already has kind of low maneuverability as far as I'm concerned. I like something with more maneuverability. So, twin propulsion engine is right out. Next up, we have the twin thrust engine. This increases your max speed, but lowers your acceleration and maneuverability. Now, your acceleration can easily take a hit, and you can still be pretty solid. This craft is a little on the slow side. So max speed would be nice, but it's also a little on the low side for maneuverability, because it's a fighter. It's not a bomber, it's a fighter, so it needs maneuverability so it can actually dogfight and dodge incoming fire and that kind of stuff. So taking a 30% reduction to maneuverability hurts way too much for that increase in speed. So that leaves us with a couple choices. The unstable twin engines is not something I typically recommend. However, it's not bad here. Increases your acceleration and your speed a little bit. Reduces your health and shields a little bit. Now, your health takes a little bit of a hit, but it can handle it. So your big hit here is your max shields. The nice part then is that massive explosion on death, which can damage or destroy enemy ships. It's not what I use, but I found it in testing to work okay. The twin microthrust engine is an engine that I use a lot on my TIEs, my X-Wings, my A-Wings, my Interceptors. I really like the twin microthrust engine. 30% increase in maneuverability is great. The loss of acceleration and the loss of max speed typically hurt. Now, on those other ships that are a little bit faster, you don't notice it as much. Here, though, this ship is already kind of slow. So you lose that speed and it kind of hurts. You can sacrifice that acceleration without a problem. So for me, this becomes a choice between either the standard ion engine or increasing my maneuverability, but sacrificing that speed. When you sacrifice that speed on this ship, you get really slow. Your top speed when you do not have power to engines is pitifully slow, to a point that even Y-wings and B-wings can target you accurately with their pitiful maneuverability because your ship's not moving very fast. So you have to be aware of that when you hurt that max speed that much. So I've actually found that sticking with the twin ion engines is the better case here. So my preferred build is the standard laser cannons, the seeker warheads, agile hull, ray shields, and the twin ion engines. As you see, that lowers your health a little bit by just 80 points, increases your acceleration a little bit, increases that maneuverability, keeps the max speed a little bit on the higher end. So it kind of helps the things that I really want to help, maneuverability, without lowering too much except your already minuscule amount of hull. And 80 damage in hull is nothing. So that's the build I like there. Now we need to go back, we need to talk about auxiliary. And this might be contentious, but that APS system, I don't like it. It's not as handy as I thought it would be. The Sneer Advanced Power System gives moderate overcharge to systems with max power. If no system has max power, give weaker overcharge across all systems. So if you have your systems clean across the board, they're all equal, all systems gain a 30% charge. So you'll be charging your shields a little bit into overcharge. You'll be building a little bit of boost. You'll be building a little bit of ammunition. So it's okay all across the board, except rarely do I ever find a situation where I want to be all across the board. I'm either doing damage, so I need to have my weapons overcharged, or I'm restocking my shields in between battles, so I need my power all to shields, or I'm trying to escape someone or catch up to someone or outmaneuver someone where I need my power to engines. Once you have that power all to one system or the other, this has less of an effect. It's a long cooldown. The effect isn't as noticeable. Typically, I don't run out of ammo so I don't need like an additional overcharge to my ammo. The one area I could see this being useful, especially in fleet battles, is as a emergency shield regenerator. So in fleet battles, and I suppose you could do this in dogfights too, you could quickly switch your power to shields, hit your APS system, get a quick boost to shields. A lot of times, though, that means you're going to be less maneuverable. You're going to have less ammo for your guns. You're going to be doing less damage. And sure, you're building your defense, but at the same time, people are going to be shooting you, and it's not going to do you any good. So as much as I wanted to love this system, as much as I tried it and worked with it and tested it out, I didn't like it. I wish it was more of a passive system than an active system. That 20-second cooldown often means that you end up using it and then you need it again before it's ready. So I kind of don't like it. Now what's interesting though is by ditching that, you make yourself a very offensive craft. So let's look at some of those offensive options. Now this ship does not have a hull repair. The TIE Fighter, the TIE Interceptor, they can repair their own hulls, and that's really handy. Now, this ship has almost no hull, so having a hull repair really wouldn't be that useful anyways. So you have to make sure that you take the time to, push that power to shields so that you don't run out of your shields, so that you recharge in between fights. Keep an eye on that, because that's your only lifeline here. So for our options, we have our cluster missile. I have found this to be a pretty useful weapon on here. Now, typically, I don't like the cluster missile because on most other ships, I only have one missile system. And the cluster missile has a very long cooldown, and it takes a very long time to get multiple locks on targets. Fairly low ammo capacity. You're only going to be able to shoot 5 times. If you can get multiple missiles on target, it's great. Medium homing, it's not bad to do that. You can get up to like 1,800 damage from these. So it's great at taking out B-wings, Y-wings, support ships, even X-wings. It's a lot harder to get the multiple locks against A-wings, so that's probably not going to happen. But I don't mind that cluster missile as one of my 2 missile systems for this ship. You have the Onslaught rockets. Now, these are the quick fire. They fire every 0.3 seconds. They do almost no damage. They are dumb fire. There's no tracking. 60 damage apiece is very low. Without any tracking, it's going to be hard to hit something. You either have to be lined up directly behind it or really good at aiming these things. I find it not to be worth my time to use these. You have an ion missile. Medium homing ion weapon. Does 6,000 ion damage. That's going to deplete anybody's shields. And it's going to power down their ship. So they're going to be floating dead in the water for a little bit. With this ship, it's not a bad missile. You can pump out a lot of damage. So you could hit them with this and then hit them with your blasters. It's not bad. My problem is it's a 20-second cooldown. And only a medium homing weapon. Lock-on range is nice, but that also means you're going to be shooting from much farther away. It's a lot easier for them to avoid this weapon. So all in all, not great. You could certainly use it. You can make good use of it. It's fun to use it. You hit them with that ion, and then you can pick them apart. But then you're waiting 20 seconds till you can get another cooldown. And a lot of times, before you can even kill them, depending on what they are, they can power back up and start to exchange fire with you. So, give or take, I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's usable. The Seeker Mines are always a good option, as much as I hate seeing them in battle. 900 damage is significant, especially against the Interceptor class. It's pretty significant against everything, though. They stay in place for 10 seconds. Anyone passing within 200 meters arms them. They are Seeker Mines, so they do seek the target. They have strong homing. Only a 9-second cooldown, so it's fairly fast, and you have an ammo capacity of 6. These are great, especially in areas that are tight confines. So any of the debris field maps, not all that useful like in Yavin or the Essless, but in Galatan, very useful there. Concussion missiles is a good option. 1,000 damage, ammo capacity of 6, lock-on time 2 seconds, cooldown of 2.3 seconds, so relatively quick cooldown, medium homing. Can't complain about these either. Last up is the Anti-Starfighter missile. Now this is my personal favorite when it comes to the interceptor classes. Strong homing, longer cooldown of 4 seconds, a very short cooldown or very short lock-on time of 1.3 seconds, lower damage of 375. Good ammo capacity at 8 though. So you can get lots of these shots off during a match. Now since we're ditching that APS, you're able to take 2 missile systems here. So I would recommend the cluster missile and then either the anti-starfighter or the concussion missiles. I like having the anti-starfighters. The strong homing is good against the A-wings. So when I'm going up against an A-wing, I'm going to use this. When I'm going against slower targets, X-wings, Y-wings, B-wings, sport ships, I'm going to be using my cluster missiles. If you wanted to go concussion and anti-starfighter, that's a good combo. Concussion and cluster is a good combo. Any of those. I would highly recommend taking 2 sets of missiles out of those 3 choices. Combined with your blaster fire, you're going to be able to do a consistent amount of damage throughout the match. Those are my favorite options there. So my favorite build, standard laser cannon, cluster missile, anti-starfighter missile, and actually I switch the position on those. I like to go that way. Again, those anti-starfighters are for your interceptor classes. This is for everything else. Seeker warheads for your countermeasures. Agile hull, or you could switch to the dampener hull if you wanted. Ray shields are great. Twin ion engine, or if you're really worried about dogfighting, you could go with the twin micro thrust. So this is kind of my all-around solid build here. In dogfights, I do not like the Defender as much as I like the Interceptor. I think I do like it better than the TIE Fighter, though. It is more offensive. It does do more damage. Now, one interesting thing that I've noticed about it is the boost on the engines of this ship builds up extremely fast. So it makes it really easy to maneuver to different parts of the battlefield or escape. It's one thing that isn't so prominent when you're dealing with the TIE fighters. Make sure I got a base TIE fighter over here. I want to just do a quick training. Galactic Empire, Ace is fine. So I want to just pop into a battle here. I'll show you that. Okay, so if you look at the gauge over there to the left, we switch to engines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. High top speed of 274 out there on your burst, and they charge right back up. If you like drift turns, this is the ship for you. This thing is going to be able to drift turn all day. Because it just builds up boost like crazy. So I find that's really handy to getting to different parts of the battlefield, to chasing people that are trying to run away. If we switch over here to a standard TIE, one, two, three. And you'll notice the top speed is not as high either. The Defender is really built for quick bursts of speed, more so than the other Imperial craft. And I find that interesting because it wasn't something that I was expecting, and I kind of discovered it by accident, in fact. The Interceptor has a nice long build up like the TIE Fighter does. It doesn't build up quickly. Now, when you do use these ones, they last longer. So that's the trade-off, is that Defender is going to have shorter bursts, but they're higher speed bursts, and they recharge faster. Now, again, it makes it a reason that APS is less than useful, because you already build it up rather quick anyways. Oh, I didn't want to go to that. I don't care about the B-Wing yet. We're not talking about that. So, again, this is what I've been using in my dogfights. Changes that I might make for fleet battles, I don't know. I don't think this is something I would use for fleet battles. For fleet battles, you got your interceptors for taking on fighters. You have your bombers for making bombing runs against capital ships. And of course, I've built my my capital ship system targeting TIE fighter that has the proton and piercing torpedoes. So I don't find any great area for this ship to fill in fleet battles. It's not going to be as good of a hunter-killer as the Interceptor, although it will be close and a little more durable. But it doesn't shine anywhere for fleet battles. I think it's a acceptable ship in dogfights. I don't think it has any exploitable strength for fleet battles. Now, I'm not saying you can't use it. I'm not saying it's not going to be good in the right hands. I'm not saying you can't take that dogfighter build and take it into fleet battles and do quite well with it. But it doesn't really excel at fighting capital ships in any way, shape, or form. There really isn't even a good build for doing that. It's not the best at dogfighting, but it's not terrible at dogfighting. So it kind of fits that all-around spot that the TIE Fighter does. However, a base TIE Fighter is not something that I like taking into fleet battles either. As is, I think I would rather have a TIE Fighter in fleet battle. The increased speed, the increased maneuverability is just better for me. The one nice part that the Defender has over the TIE in fleet battles is taking hits. Because those hits against the TIE Defender are going to be against max shields. So if you can get away from the combat, you can regen that. Whereas the TIE Fighter only has hull. So any hits you take are going against that hull, and they're going to build up over time. You can regen that if you have the right equipment, but it kind of hurts. One other thing I want you to keep in mind with shields, I haven't talked about this before, but keep in mind that those shield numbers are a little misleading. This is going to be important if you play a lot of Imperial ships because you probably don't have a lot of dealings with shields. But half your shields are to the front, half are to the back. So in a jousting situation, going straight on against this ship, they have 600 shields in front plus the 400 hull you have to go through. So it really only has 1,000 hit points when jousting, or 1,000 hit points if you're doing all damage into the rear arc. Now, if that shield's boosted, that changes it because that doubles the amount of shields. But still, at that point, you're only talking 1,600 damage to get through, whereas the TIE Fighter is 1,550 damage. So, that's kind of a downfall again of the Defender. Fleet Battle does tend to have a lot of jousting matches. So you got to kind of watch out for that and realize that if you're not boosting your shields in this thing, you're going to be hurting. You really need to have those shields boosted all the time. If you get done with combat, boost those shields back up. Otherwise, those shields go down and you're going to pop real easily. So keep that in mind with this ship. You've got to keep those shields up, especially in fleet battles. Any downtime you have should be going to shields, and then to engines to get back into the battle, then to weapons. So that's all the info I can provide you on the Defender. I hope that helps you out. I hope that helps you build a better Defender. I hope that helps you out in combat so you know how to use this ship to more effective scale. It's kind of a trade-off compared to the TIE Fighter. You're going to lose your max speed, you're going to lose some maneuverability, you're going to gain a lot of acceleration. You gain the shields but lose a lot of hull. Weapon systems and choices are fairly comparable, although the Defender actually, the TIE Fighter actually has some better options out there for, more options I should say, for your auxiliary weapons. I was really hoping for more out of the Defender. I wanted it to have kind of a unique feel, but it's really just kind of a more aggressive TIE Fighter. So take it for what it is, play it to its best, and I'll see you next time.